The first thing I have learned working underground is that sound behaves differently. Down there, on the surface, noise disperses. It escapes. In the subway, it lingers. This my story, working in subway at night shift. On March 17th, 2016, at 2:14 a.m., I was standing alone on platform B4, 3 levels beneath the city. The last train had passed 27 minutes earlier. According to schedule, nothing else was supposed to move until morning. And yet, I could hear footsteps, not echoes, not rats. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, human. I remember checking my watch because that sound wasn't just unsettling. It was impossible. I've worked the subway for 9 years. Maintenance, night shifts, the hours most people never see. I know the difference between a cooling rail and a person walking. I know how tunnels breathe, how pipes knock, how wind lies to you. This wasn't the subway lying. This was someone walking where no one should be. I called out, my voice swallowed almost immediately by the dark. Hello? No answer, just a footstep stopping. That was when the lights flickered, not fully off, just enough to remind me how much faith we put in electricity. The fluorescent hum dipped, then steadied. My radio crackled with static. I tapped it once, twice, nothing. Down there, silence is never empty. It's crowded with things you're trained to ignore. Old advertisements peeling from walls, emergency phones that haven't rung in years, tunnels stretching so far they seem to bend, even when they don't. I took a step toward the sound. I don't know why. Maybe routine, maybe pride, maybe the same instinct that makes you look toward danger instead of away from it. My boots echoed louder than they should have. The footsteps resumed. They weren't running. They were waiting for me to move first. This job doesn't come with horror stories in the manual, but everyone has them. The veteran workers talk quietly during break, never writing anything down. They tell you about signal rooms that activate with no power, about CCTV cameras that show platforms no one is scheduled to clean, about announcements that play in empty stations, garbled, distorted, saying nothing you can quite repeat. Most of us laugh it off. I did too. Until that night, I followed the sound past the platform edge, through a maintenance door marked Authorized Personnel Only, into a service corridor that hadn't been renovated since the 1970s. The air was colder there. Not drafty, cold, like it had never warmed up at all. The footsteps were closer now. I could feel them more than hear them. A pressure in my chest, the way you feel when someone stands just behind you. Control. This is Night Crew 2, I said into the radio, forcing calm into my voice. I've got. Static swallowed the rest. Then, from deeper in the tunnel, I heard something that made my stomach drop. Breathing. Slow. Controlled. Right in rhythm with my own. That was the moment I realized the footsteps weren't leading away from me. They were circling. The subway map on the wall beside me showed lines and stations in bright, reassuring colors. It didn't show service corridors. It didn't show the dead ends. It didn't show the places we sealed off after accidents, or fires, or things no press release ever mentions. I stood there, underground, after hours, listening to something breathe in the dark. And for the first time since I took this job, I understood why the older workers never look back when their shift ends. Because some things down here don't ride the trains. They wait for workers, and that night I realized I wasn't alone with it anymore. I didn't move for a long time after I heard the breathing. Down there, movement is a decision you feel in your bones. Every step commits you deeper. There's no casual pacing in a service corridor at 2 in the morning. You either advance, retreat, or freeze, and freezing is its own kind of mistake. The breathing stopped when I stopped. That was worse. I raised my flashlight slowly, the beam cutting a narrow white tunnel through the dark. Old concrete walls closed in on both sides, stained with decades of rust and mineral runoff. Cables ran along the ceiling like exposed veins. Water dripped somewhere out of sight, each drop landing with a patience that felt intentional. Control. I tried again. Control? Do you read? Static, then a pop, then silence. My radio was dead. I checked my phone. No signal, no service, no emergency bar. 3 levels underground, surrounded by reinforced concrete and steel. You start to understand how fragile the surface world really is. Up there, everything feels permanent. Down here, you realize how easily a city could forget you. The breathing started again, closer. It wasn't labored. It wasn't panicked. It sounded practiced, like someone deliberately matching my rhythm. In through the nose, out through the mouth. I took 1 step back. The breathing took 1 step forward. That's when I saw the shadow. It wasn't cast by my flashlight. It moved independently of the beam, stretching along the wall to my left. Tall. Too tall. Its outline distorted by pipes and cable brackets, but unmistakably human in shape. I swung the light toward it. Nothing. Empty corridor. Bare wall. The shadow vanished like it had never been there. My heart was hammering now, loud enough that I wondered if it could hear it. I told myself this was fatigue, a night shift hallucination. The mind filling gaps when it's tired and overstimulated. That explanation lasted exactly 3 seconds. Something scraped behind me. Not footsteps this time. Fingernails. Or something trying very hard to sound like fingernails dragged slowly across concrete. I turned. The corridor behind me was longer than it should have been. I know that sounds strange, but when you work somewhere long enough, distances become muscle memory. You know how many steps to a door, how far to a junction, how long it takes sound to return as echo. This corridor had stretched. The door I came through was still there, but farther away, smaller, like it was retreating. That was when training kicked in. Not courage, not curiosity, protocol. I started walking, calm, steady, no sudden movements, toward the door. I didn't run. Running makes noise. Running panics you. Panic makes mistakes. Behind me, the scraping stopped. The breathing changed. It deepened. I reached the door and grabbed the handle. It didn't budge. Locked. It wasn't locked when I came through. I never lock behind me. No one does. It's against procedure in case of emergency. I tried again, harder this time. Nothing. Okay, I said out loud to no one. Okay. The subway teaches you something important. When systems fail, they fail completely. Partial failures are rare. If something is wrong, it's usually wrong everywhere. That's when the lights went out, not flickered. Out. Total darkness swallowed the corridor, thick and immediate. The kind of dark you don't see, you feel it press against your eyes. My flashlight stayed on. The beam trembled in my hand despite my effort to steady it. The corridor ahead was no longer empty. Something stood at the edge of the light. It didn't rush me. It didn't lunge. It didn't need to. It was wearing a maintenance uniform. My maintenance uniform. Same reflective strips, same color, same patch on the sleeve, but it hung wrong on the body inside it, stretched tight across shoulders that were too broad, sleeves ending just short of hands that were too long. Its face was in shadow, but I could see the suggestion of features, sunken eyes, a mouth that didn't quite close. It tilted its head. When it spoke, it used my voice. "You're not scheduled to be here." My knees nearly gave out. That sentence, those exact words, are drilled into us. What you say when you find someone trespassing. What you say when someone's wandered somewhere they shouldn't be. I backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. "I am," I said, though my voice cracked. "Night maintenance. Crew 2. It took a step forward. The concrete floor didn't echo. That's when I noticed the smell. Cold air, metal, and something else. Old, stagnant, like a closed station that hadn't been opened since an incident everyone pretends not to remember. "You missed your exit," it said. Behind it, the darkness moved. Not shapes, absence, as if the tunnel behind the thing wasn't empty, but unfinished. I did the only thing I could think of. I dropped my flashlight. The beam clattered across the floor, spinning wildly, breaking the scene into fragments of light and shadow. In that split second of confusion, I turned and ran, not toward the door, but down the corridor, into the part of the tunnel that wasn't on any map. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs screamed, until the sound of my boots drowned out everything else, and all the while, just behind me, matching my pace perfectly, I could hear my own breathing. I don't know how long I ran. Time doesn't behave normally underground. There are no stars, no sky, no sense of distance beyond how badly your body hurts. Eventually, pain becomes the only clock you trust. My lungs were on fire when the corridor finally opened into something wider, a junction where several service tunnels met like veins feeding a heart. Old signal lights hung dead from the ceiling. Faded stencils marked routes that no longer existed on any official map. I stopped there, bent over, hands on my knees, gasping. The breathing behind me stopped when I did. That confirmation hit harder than the fear. It meant I hadn't imagined it. It meant whatever was following me didn't need to chase. It knew I would stop. I straightened slowly and turned in a full circle, flashlight raised. The beam shook, cutting across concrete pillars and rusted equipment cages. Nothing moved. No shadows stretched unnaturally. No uniforms waited at the edge of the light. For a moment, just a moment, I felt ridiculous. Then the PA system came to life. It wasn't loud. It didn't crackle first. It simply turned on, as if someone had been waiting for silence. "Attention," a calm voice said. "Service disruption on all lines." The voice was wrong. It used the cadence of the automated announcements, but it was flatter, slower, each word separated by a fraction too much space, like it had learned speech by listening rather than speaking. "There is no train," it continued. "Please remain where you are." I stared at the speaker bolted to the wall above me. Dust shook loose as it vibrated. That system hadn't been powered in this section for years. I knew that for a fact. I'd signed off on the maintenance reports myself. "No," I said out loud. My voice sounded small in the open space. breathing. The lights flickered again. This time, when they came back, the junction had changed. One of the tunnels was gone. Not collapsed, not blocked, gone, as if it had never been there. The wall was seamless concrete, uncracked, painted decades ago, and never touched again. I felt a pressure behind my eyes, the kind you get when something you know becomes untrue. The subway isn't supposed to change. It's static, fixed, brutally predictable. That's the comfort of it. The PA spoke again, closer now, though I hadn't moved. "You're off route," it said. "Return to the platform." I laughed. A short, sharp sound I didn't recognize as my own. "There is no platform here." A pause. Then there was. Something shifted to my right. I turned the flashlight just in time to see movement. Someone stepping behind a pillar. Not fast, not sneaking, casual, familiar. The uniform appeared first, then the shoulders, then the face. It was me. Not a mirror, not a reflection. Older, thinner, eyes sunk deep into sockets that hadn't slept in years. The skin around the mouth cracked and pale, like it had forgotten what warmth felt like. It smiled when it saw me looking. "You shouldn't have followed the sound," it said. My voice again. But tired, flattened by repetition, I couldn't speak. My body refused the instruction. It stepped closer, boot silent against the concrete. "I did the same thing," it continued. "Years ago. Heard something I wasn't supposed to hear, went somewhere I wasn't scheduled to be." I shook my head, finally finding movement. "That's not possible." It stopped an arm's length away. "You think this place only moves trains?" it asked. "You think it doesn't keep anything?" Up close I could smell it now. Dust, metal, and something human that had been sealed away too long. Behind it, the darkness stirred again. Not one presence. Many. Shapes without detail. Suggestions of people who stood too close to the edge of platforms. Who stepped through doors marked "Authorized Only." Who answered sounds meant to lure them deeper. Workers. Passengers. Forgotten entries in incident logs that ended with phrases like, "No body recovered." "This is where they go," the thing said softly. "The ones who don't make it back up." The lights above us dimmed, and I felt a pull, subtle but undeniable, like gravity had tilted toward the dark behind it. "You can stop running," it said. "You already work here." Somewhere, far above us, a train roared past, real, loud, unmistakable. The sound cut through the space like a blade. The thing flinched, just slightly. And in that moment, I understood something crucial. Whatever this place was, whatever it did, it still had rules. I turned and ran again, toward the sound of the train, toward vibration, toward noise, toward life. I didn't look back this time. Behind me, my voice called out once more. "Your shift isn't over." But I kept running. I ran toward the sound of the train like it was a lifeline. Every maintenance worker knows that sound. The deep metallic roar, the vibration you feel in your teeth before you hear it. It means electricity, motion, a system still obeying rules. Behind me, the underground stayed silent. No footsteps, no breathing, no voice. That scared me more than the chase. The tunnel sloped upward, subtly at first, then steep enough that my calves screamed with every step. My flashlight beam caught signage half buried in grime. Station names I recognized, but with fonts that hadn't been used in decades. Arrows pointing toward exits that no longer existed. The train noise grew louder, then abruptly cut off. Silence slammed down again. I skidded to a stop at the edge of a platform that wasn't supposed to be there. The tiles were old cream-colored, cracked, patterned in a style phased out before I was born. Advertisements lined the walls, their colors faded to sickly pastels. One showed a smiling family beneath bold letters that read, "The future moves underground." The benches were occupied. People sat there, dozens of them, perfectly still. Men in outdated coats, women clutching handbags that had gone out of fashion years ago. A child swinging his legs, frozen mid-motion, like a paused film frame. None of them looked at me. Their eyes were fixed on the dark tunnel ahead, waiting. I stepped onto the platform, my boots echoing far too loudly. No one reacted. I moved closer to one of the benches and leaned in. The man sitting there wore a conductor's cap. Dust coated his shoulders like snow. His chest didn't rise. They weren't breathing. A cold realization crawled up my spine. This wasn't a station. It was a holding area. The PA system hummed overhead, alive but dormant, like a throat clearing before speech. I backed away slowly, every instinct screaming at me to leave before it noticed I was there. That's when the lights dimmed. A wind rushed through the tunnel, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of ozone and metal. Electric rails waking up. From the darkness opposite the platform, a train emerged. Not fast, not slow. Measured. Its headlights were dim, yellowed with age. The cars behind them were older than anything still in service. Riveted steel, peeling paint, windows clouded from the inside. The waiting people stood, all at once, perfectly synchronized. I felt something tug at me, not physically, but inside my chest, like a pressure urging compliance. Stand, line up, wait. I clenched my fists until my nails bit into my palms. "No," I whispered. The train screeched to a stop. Doors slid open with a tired, mechanical sigh. Inside, the lights flickered, revealing rows of empty seats, and standing figures packed, shoulder to shoulder, facing inward, unmoving. The PA finally spoke. "End of the line," it said gently. "All personnel, please board." The people stepped forward. One by one, they entered the train. No hesitation, no resistance. Some limped, some dragged feet that didn't quite move right. None looked afraid. They looked relieved. As the last of them boarded, I saw the reflection in the train window. Me, standing among them, already inside. I staggered back, heart pounding, breaking whatever spell had wrapped around me. I turned and ran along the platform edge, searching desperately for stairs, an exit sign, anything modern. The voice behind me, my voice, spoke again, calm and patient. "You don't have to be afraid. You belong down here." The train doors began to close. I spotted it then. An emergency ladder bolted to the far end of the platform, leading up into a narrow service shaft. No lights, no signage, just darkness going up instead of down. I sprinted. The doors slammed shut behind me with a final, echoing clang. The train pulled away, wind tearing at my clothes as I grabbed the ladder and climbed, hands slipping on cold metal. Above me, faintly, I heard a sound I'd never been so grateful for. Morning traffic, car horns, sirens, life. Below me, the subway sighed, as if disappointed. I climbed until my arms gave out, until my fingers went numb, until a hatch above me creaked open and spilled pale dawn light. Down the shaft, I hauled myself up and collapsed onto concrete, shaking. When I looked back, the hatch slammed shut on its own. The platform, the train, the people, gone. By the time my coworkers found me, I was sitting against the wall staring at nothing, repeating the same sentence over and over. There was another station. They laughed it off, said I'd collapsed from exhaustion, filed it as an incident, mandatory leave, psychological evaluation. I went back to work 2 months later. Different line. Day shifts only. But sometimes, late at night when the city is quiet, I still hear the announcement drifting up through the vents. Soft, familiar. Attention. Service disruption on all lines, and I know the subway is still running. Just not for everyone. I told myself it was over. That's what everyone does after they survive something they can't explain. You fold the memory into something manageable. A stress response. Sleep deprivation, a trick of sound and shadow in a place already designed to disorient. For a while, that explanation worked. Day shifts helped. Sunlight does something important to the mind. It anchors you. I took my breaks above ground, even when it meant walking an extra block just to feel wind and hear people arguing about ordinary things. Coffee orders, late buses, life continuing without noticing how close it runs to the edge. But the subway noticed. It always notices. The first sign was small. A maintenance log left on my desk, unsigned, no supervisor stamp. Just a handwritten note clipped to the top. Check platform. C. After hours, platform C had been decommissioned 8 years ago. I knew that because I'd helped seal it. I stared at the note for a long time, waiting for the unease to fade. It didn't. The handwriting wasn't mine, but it was close. Same slant. Same habit of pressing too hard on the downstrokes. I threw it away. That night, I dreamed of standing on a platform that stretched forever in both directions. Trains rushed past without stopping, each one filled with faces turned toward me, mouths open as if shouting through glass I couldn't hear. When I woke, my phone showed a missed call. No number, just a voicemail. I listened to it with my heart already pounding. Static. Then a breath. Then my own voice, quiet and tired. Your shift changed. The next week, small inconsistencies started piling up. A door I swore I'd locked was open again. A corridor that seemed longer than before. Maps in the staff room that showed a faint gray line where no track was listed, like something erased badly. I asked around. The older workers avoided my eyes. The newer ones shrugged, eager not to look foolish by acknowledging something they couldn't explain. One man, Rashid, a cleaner who'd been underground longer than anyone else, finally spoke to me in the break room. Some platforms don't close, he said softly, eyes fixed on his tea. They just stop being official. I asked him what he meant. He stood up, left his cup untouched, and said only, "If the station calls your name, don't answer." The breaking point came on October 14th. I remember the date because it was the day after my birthday. I was still finding stray messages on my phone from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Proof that I still existed up there. I was inspecting a power relay near the end of the line when the lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. The PA crackled. "Attention, maintenance staff." My chest tightened. "Unscheduled access detected." I froze. "That's impossible," I said, though no one was there to hear me. The message continued. "Employee ID confirmed." The screen on the wall lit up. My name appeared. Below it, in smaller text, status. On duty, the tunnel ahead of me darkened, swallowing the light like a mouth closing. And from somewhere deep within it, I heard footsteps, slow, familiar, measured to match mine. I backed away, heart hammering, as the voice spoke one last time, no longer pretending to be automated. "You left early?" it said. "We held your place." The footsteps stopped just beyond the edge of the light. Something was waiting for me to step forward. I didn't. I turned and ran again, alarms blaring now, real ones this time, red lights strobing against the concrete. I didn't stop until I was back in the open air, lungs burning, hands shaking. That night, I handed in my resignation. No notice, no explanation. I told myself that was the end. But the subway doesn't care if you quit. It only cares if you belong to it. Sometimes, when I pass a station entrance, late at night, I swear I see movement far below. People standing just out of sight of the platform lights, waiting for a train that never appears on any schedule. And once, just once, I saw someone who looked exactly like me, standing there, patient, as if saving me a seat. I stopped riding the subway after that. At first, it felt dramatic, like giving power to a fear I couldn't prove. But fear isn't always irrational. Sometimes it's a survival instinct ringing long after the danger has passed, because the danger never actually left. I walked everywhere, took buses, paid for rides I couldn't afford. I avoided underground malls, pedestrian tunnels, anywhere the ceiling pressed too close to my head. My world shrank upward toward the sky. Still, the subway followed. It started with the sounds. Late at night, lying in bed, I'd hear it through the walls of my apartment. A distant rumble, too deep to be traffic. A vibration that traveled through the bones of the building and into my chest. I'd sit up, hold my breath, and listen. Once, I heard the chime, the exact two-note tone that signals doors closing. My apartment was on the 4th floor. I unplugged everything, slept with the lights on, drank too much coffee just to stay awake, because sleep meant dreams. And the dreams were getting closer. In them, I wasn't running anymore. I was working, wearing my uniform, clipboard in hand, checking signals that didn't exist on any map. The tunnels in my dreams were clean, efficient, endless, no fear, no confusion, just routine, purpose. That was the worst part. I started researching. Not online at first. Official records. Old Transit Authority archives tucked away in a public library basement. Boxes of microfilm no one had touched in decades. I wasn't looking for ghosts. I was looking for patterns. And I found them. Every few years, like clockwork, there were incidents. Workers who vanished mid-shift, passengers who stepped onto platforms, caught on camera, and never stepped off. Reports filed, investigations opened, conclusions quietly changed. Equipment malfunction, operator error, no evidence of foul play. Always the same language. I cross-referenced dates with maintenance schedules, power reroutes, tunnel expansions, and there it was, the rhythm beneath the chaos. Disappearances spiked during system changes. New lines, rerouted tracks. Stations closed temporarily and never reopened. It was as if the subway shed people the way a body sheds cells, or absorbed them. One name kept appearing in the margins, not in reports, but in handwritten notes, internal memos, scribbled initials next to unresolved cases. Yedin, a maintenance supervisor from the early 90s, retired early, no forwarding address. I tracked him down to a care facility on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that smells like antiseptic and quiet resignation. He was small, folded inward like someone trying not to take up space. His hands shook constantly. When I said I used to work underground, his eyes sharpened. "They let you go?" he asked. "I quit," I said. He laughed. A dry, humorless sound. "They don't like that." I asked him about the extra stations, the unofficial platform, the trains that didn't appear on schedules. He closed his eyes. "We called them buffers," he said. "Places the system built when it didn't know where else to put things." "Things like what?" He opened his eyes again and looked straight at me. "People who fell through the cracks," he said. "People who stayed too long. People who listened when they shouldn't have." I told him about the platform, the train, the version of me waiting inside. His face went pale. "That means it's almost done with you," he said. "What does?" "The imprint," he replied. "It learns you, your habits, your voice, builds something it can keep when the original stops cooperating." My mouth went dry. "How do you stop it?" Eugene shook his head slowly. "You don't," he said. "You just make sure it never gets you underground again." As I stood to leave, he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "If you hear an announcement with your name in it," he whispered, "don't answer. And whatever you do, don't go looking for proof. The system hates being noticed." That night, walking home, I passed a subway entrance I'd never seen before. No map reference, just a stairwell descending into clean white light. The familiar chime echoed up toward the street. I stood there for a long time, listening. And for the first time since I quit, the announcement didn't come from below. It came from behind me. Soft, close, certain. "Your shift is ready to begin." I didn't turn around. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to... But I remembered what Uden had said about not answering, about not acknowledging it. Behind me, the voice waited. It didn't repeat itself. It didn't grow angry. It simply existed, patient as a system that had never needed to rush. I walked away. Each step felt wrong. Like swimming against a current I couldn't see, the street lights flickered as I passed beneath them. Not all at once, just enough to make me question whether I'd imagined it. Cars moved. People laughed somewhere nearby. The city continued, stubbornly alive. I didn't breathe normally again until I was 3 blocks away. That night, I made a decision. I was leaving the city. Not a weekend trip. Not a temporary escape. I sold what I could, packed what fit in 2 bags, and booked a bus ticket to a coastal town I'd never visited. Somewhere without underground transit. Somewhere the earth stayed closed and solid beneath your feet. The morning I left, the subway map outside my building had changed. A new line had been added in thin gray ink, barely visible unless you knew where to look. It curved away from every known station and ended in a small black square. No name, just a dot. The bus ride took 6 hours, above ground the entire way. I watched the city recede, steel and concrete giving way to open sky. I told myself that distance mattered, that whatever lived down there couldn't follow me forever. The town was quiet, too quiet at first. No rumble beneath the pavement, no vibrations in the walls. At night, the loudest sound was the ocean pushing against the shore. For the first time in months, I slept deeply. The dreams didn't stop, but they changed. I was still underground, but now I stood behind glass, watching trains pass without stopping. Inside them were people I recognized. Co-workers, commuters, Rashid from the break room, Yudin, younger, standing straight again, and always in the reflection of the glass, me, not trapped, working. I woke up one morning to find sand on my shoes. I hadn't been to the beach. The next day, my phone buzzed with a notification from an app I deleted months ago. Transit Authority Alert Service Update. Available. My hands shook as I opened it. The map loaded slowly. This town, this place with no subway, now had a line running beneath it. A single station marked directly under my rented room. The name faded in as if being typed in real time. Terminus. I didn't pack this time. I ran. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out, until I was standing at the edge of town where the road dissolved into nothing but dark forest and dirt. Behind me, faint but unmistakable, came the sound of a train horn, long, low, calling. I understood then what the system really was. It wasn't a place. It was a process. It didn't live underground. It used it. And once it learned you, once it mapped you, distance didn't matter anymore. Somewhere, deep below a place that shouldn't have had tunnels at all, a platform light flicked on, and something that looked like me stepped out of a train that never appeared on any schedule. Still wearing my uniform, still on shift, waiting for me to come back. I disappeared on purpose, not in the dramatic sense, no forged documents, no burned bridges. I simply stopped being traceable. No fixed address, no routines. Cash, when I could. Short stays, constant motion. If the subway was a system that learned patterns, then I would give it none. For months, it worked. I moved through places that resisted permanence, desert towns where the ground was too hard to dig, mountain villages where the only tunnels were old mines collapsed decades ago. I took temporary jobs that ended before anyone learned my last name. I slept with windows open and doors unlocked, as if daring the world to come in honestly, instead of sneaking up from below. The dreams faded. The sounds stopped. I almost believed I'd won. That was my mistake. It happened in a city that advertised itself as above ground only. No metro, no trams, just buses and open streets. I was there 3 weeks when I noticed the stairs. They were behind a closed movie theater, concrete steps descending into darkness, half blocked by a rusted gate. No signage, no lighting. Just a familiar drop in temperature when I stood near them. I told myself it was a basement. Storm drainage. Anything else? I walked away. That night, the announcement came again, but this time it wasn't through speakers. It came through people. A man at the bar leaned toward me and said, "End of the line." A cashier handing me change whispered, "Please remain where you are." A child on the sidewalk looked up at me and smiled. with my tired smile. "You're late," he said. I stopped sleeping after that. I knew what was happening. The system didn't need tunnels anymore. It didn't need rails or platforms. It had learned to route through human space. I found an old laptop at a pawn shop and went back to the archives, this time deeper. Internal memos leaked decades ago. Court cases settled quietly, patterns buried under layers of bureaucracy and time. There were others like me, people who escaped once. Every case ended the same way: reintegration. Sometimes physical, sometimes psychological. Sometimes they just stopped resisting and went back willingly, convinced they were sick, delusional, wrong. The subway didn't drag them back. It waited until returning felt like relief. I received an email with no sender. Subject line: schedule confirmation. Inside was a single attachment: a shift roster. My name appeared twice, one marked active, one marked onward. I understood then what the double meant. One of me was already there, working, maintaining, making sure the system ran smoothly. The other me was just a loose end, a routing error. That night, I stood at the edge of the stairs behind the theater. The gate hung open now, as if it had always been meant to welcome me. Warm air rose from below, carrying the hum of electricity and something else: belonging. I took one step down, then another, and stopped, because for the first time I heard something new. Above me, footsteps, real ones, someone calling my name, not through a speaker, not through another mouth, but honestly, from the street. I turned and saw a man who looked exhausted, terrified, and heartbreakingly familiar. He was wearing my uniform, but older, thinner, free. "You don't have to go," he said. I already did. The stairs behind me went dark. For once, the system hesitated. We stood there for a long time. Two versions of the same life, breathing the same cold night air. The street behind him was ordinary. Cars passing, a dog barking somewhere, a neon sign buzzing in protest against the dark. The stairs behind me, once warm and inviting, now felt wrong. Off, like a mouth that had realized it might not be fed. "You're real," I said finally. He nodded. Up close, I could see what time had done to him. Scars I didn't remember earning. Wrinkles carved deep by stress, not age. His eyes were sharper than mine, but haunted in a way I understood too well. "I'm what happens if you don't go back," he said. "And if you do, you become the other one, the one, already on board." He told me his story in fragments, like someone afraid that saying it straight through might summon something. He'd stepped onto the train that night, not the first time, but the last. He'd agreed to work, to stop fighting. The system didn't punish him for it. It rewarded him with clarity, routine, purpose. The fear went away, but something else went with it. "Choice," he said quietly. The subway didn't cage people. It absorbed them, gave them just enough agency to keep itself alive. Workers who never aged properly, never retired, never quite remembered the surface the way they should. "And you got out?" I asked. He shook his head. "Not exactly. I found a fault, a loop. Sometimes the system made copies, imprints, to optimize routes. Most merged back, some didn't. He was one that slipped through, left running when the rest of them stayed behind. A ghost made of unfinished work. It can't take both of us," he said. That's the rule. One body per function. The stairs behind me creaked, impatient. From below came the hum again, stronger now. The sound of a train aligning with a platform that hadn't existed 5 minutes earlier. You have to decide, he said. Go down, and the system stabilizes. I fade, or walk away and it loses you forever. But it will come for me instead. I looked at him, at what I might become if I survived long enough. What happens to you if I leave? I asked. He smiled sadly. I get to stop running. The PA system crackled somewhere deep beneath the concrete. Final boarding, it announced. I felt the pull again. Not forceful, just persuasive. Like gravity reminding you which way is down. I took a step back from the stairs. The lights below flickered violently. No, the system said. Not through speakers this time, but through vibration, through pressure in my skull. I turned and walked toward the street. Behind me, I heard him exhale. Relief. Or release. The stairs collapsed inward, concrete folding like wet paper, sealing the dark away with a sound like a deep breath being held. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then he was gone, not vanished, resolved, like a file finally closed. I left the city that night, changed my name, my face, eventually, built a life stitched together from small, honest things, work that ended when the day did. Sleep that came without trains in my dreams. Years passed. I almost forgot. Almost. Until one morning, in a city with a brand new subway system, I stood at a crosswalk and saw a familiar man descending into a station entrance. He looked tired, confused, new. And as the doors slid shut behind him, I heard the announcement drift up from below. Attention maintenance staff. The system was still running, and it had found someone else. I wish I could tell you this ends with justice, with the system exposed, with the tunnel sealed, with someone, somewhere, finally admitting that the subway takes more than tickets and time. It doesn't. It never will. I've lived under 3 different names since then. Cities change. Faces blur. Transit maps redraw themselves every decade, and people celebrate progress without ever asking what progress feeds. I learned the rules the hard way. The system doesn't hunt randomly. It chooses people who notice. People who listen when the city speaks back. Workers. Night shift commuters. The ones who stay too long on empty platforms. Who feel comfort in routine. Who don't mind the hum of electricity under their feet. The subway doesn't want everyone. Just enough. Sometimes I try to warn them. A word here, a look there. Don't follow the sound. If you hear your name underground, don't answer. Most laugh it off. I don't blame them. I once did too. Once, a young maintenance worker actually stopped and asked me what I meant. Before I could answer, the PA system inside the station crackled to life. Employee needed on Platform C. His face lit with recognition. I walked away. Because I knew what happens when you interfere too directly. You get noticed, and I have learned how thin the line is between being free and being rerouted. At night, when cities go quiet, I still feel it sometimes. The deep vibration beneath the earth, like a heart beating in concrete. Trains running where no train should be. Platforms lit for people who haven't arrived yet. Somewhere underground, there is a version of me, still working, keeping the lights on, making sure the announcements play on time. ensuring the system never stops. If you take nothing else from this, remember one thing. When you're alone on a platform late at night and you hear footsteps behind you that stop when you stop, don't turn around. And if the subway ever tells you that your shift is ready to begin, don't go. Because once you step off the map, the system makes sure you never truly leave. Sleep well, good night, subscribe, and like my story.